Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. So this is the first year that we've tried to keep things alive as far as plants go in our yard, and we bought some Brazilian jasmine plants that hang from hooks, and they're really pretty. So I thought it might be kind of fun to try and recreate the flowers that they have. Show you what one of them looks like. They got a real simple flower, but it's very pretty. It's got kind of a cone sort of stem like that comes off of the base of the flower. And I'm going to sort of duplicate that but modify it a little bit so it's usable for what I'm going to do with it. But I thought I'd give it a try and see if I could recreate that, or at least a close approximation of it. It'll be a fun experiment and we'll see how it turns out. You'll have to let me know what you think at the end. Before we do that, though, I'd like to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters, and I truly value their support. I have a new one, Amanda M. Thank you for signing up. I appreciate your support as well. I think you'll find that it's a great group of people and a really friendly environment, and just kind of a nice community where you can share ideas and show them what you're working on and see what they're working on. It's a great place over there, so thanks for signing up. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of my previous patrons as well. The other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 23,700, I believe, which is amazing. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the kind comments. It particularly is moving to me when I find that I've helped somebody get through a rough spot or restart their creativity or whatever. That kind of stuff really makes me feel like I'm doing some good, and I do appreciate finding that out from you, so thanks for that. I also appreciate your support financially, the Buy Me a Coffees, the Super Thanks, people buying merch on my merch store or my ebooks. All of that stuff makes my channel sustainable and keeps me doing this as my job, so thank you for that. All right, well, let's get started on this flower project. So this is one of my design ideas sketchbooks, of which there are several different varieties on my merch store. This one has gauge to inches to millimeters chart, which I find pretty useful. There's some other ones there that have like fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeters as well. Ring sizes, other stuff like that. So some useful information on the backs of most of them. The thing that I really like about them is the dot matrix in the background. It helps me to draw better pictures because drawing is not my strongest suit. But it's nice to have a record of those things that you've done in the past so you can revisit them if you want to. So I also, when I flip the page, sometimes I accidentally put my current project upside down, and that's what I did today. So, like I showed you at the beginning, this is the flower, and I kind of sketched up the basic idea. If you notice, the leaves kind of have a point to one side, or the petals, I should say. This over here, and then they kind of come back in a curve over here. So they're a little bit offset, each of them, and there's 5 petals. So I think the easiest way to do this, and I don't know because I've not done one just like this before, but I traced this. This is pretty close to that right there, and I glued it onto a piece of 22 gauge sheet, which is 0.66 millimeters. And I think I'm just going to cut it out with my saw, and I think what I'll probably do, because these kind of overlap each other, once we cut it out like this, I think probably before I do any forging or anything, I might want to engrave these little lines here to give it kind of some three-dimensionality. And then I'm gonna dap it so that it curves downwards a little bit. So those are curving in. I'm going to cut it all the way into here so that they can overlap, and as we dap it, it should push those past each other a little bit. And I may I'll probably leave these relatively smooth out here and then shape them a little bit individually to give them some kind of more natural sort of looks to them. There's a little cone kind of center on these flowers. If you look inside of it, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, and it's striated, so I'm just going to take a piece of maybe, this is 10 gauge round, and just make a cone out of it and then file some striations in it, and we'll solder that in the center. But the center I'm actually going to make out of a disc out of 22 gauge. It's about 15 millimeters. I popped it out already. I used my disc cutter to pop one out. It might be 14 millimeters. And we'll dome that a little bit, and I'm going to try and make it a little more conical by by doing a little trick that I do sometimes to give it a little bit more of that. But I don't want it so tall that this is sitting way up off of the chest, because it's going to be hanging from a stem made out of this stuff too, which will taper. And I'm thinking I might put this little garnet on there. Not little, it's a 7mm, so it's a real pretty garnet that I picked up at the last show. And I think just because of the color of the thing, it's not a perfect match, but it'll be kind of representative of what this looks like in real life. And then we'll see how this comes out. So, like I said, this is 10 gauge. 10 gauge is, I don't remember what 10 gauge is, honestly, in millimeters. It is 2.59 or 2.6. 2.6 millimeters, let's call it. So, and I think that's about what we're going to do. I'm going to bend the stem over after I taper it a little bit to where that'll be the bail, so the stone will be actually above the chain. So that's my plan. We're going to give it a try and see if it works. So let's start by cutting this out over at my sawing area. So let's go over there. I hope you can forgive my messy area over here. This is a 00, so we'll start off with that. Okay, so now my thought is I'm going to try and use a little ball burr to kind of cut these in here, and we'll see if I can keep a steady hand. I don't have a Fordham tool, so I have to go at a higher speed than I would like, probably. I'm going to try and remove this paper now. Okay, I think I'm going to take it back over and we can start shaping it a little bit. So I feel like I need to twist them this way just a little bit, each one, so that this rides up over the top of this one goes underneath that one. So I'm just kind of twisting them all a little bit. Now I think we can start pushing them down into the dapping punch, or dapping block, I should say. That's probably deep enough. The top part, kind of wanting to bend these back the opposite direction like that. Starting to look great, maybe? What if we took each of these petals and put them over the top of one of these? Okay, I think let's grab that disc. See if we can't make a nice kind of dome shape. So it's pretty easy to get a half circle, but to get it to kind of point downwards into a point is more challenging. And I did it a long time ago when I did this kind of keepsake holder that looked like an acorn, and I made the bottom of the acorn like it. If you're interested in seeing that one, I think that was a cool project. It was from quite a while back. But so in order to get it a little bit pointier, first off I'm going to anneal it because I've work hardened it so hard. See if we can't get it a little softer. If you haven't been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder, which looks like this. I use a liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Silversmith model. It's an acetylene air torch. It draws in atmospheric air through here to mix with the gas. It produces a nice hot flame, not quite as hot as oxyacetylene, but hotter than propane or butane. So it's a good torch for silversmithing, I think. Okay, so annealing is heating it up to the point where it's kind of a dull red color, which re-randomizes the molecules in it so that they're not in any kind of structured order, which makes the metal softer again. So let that cool off for a minute. Okay, since dapping punches and dapping blocks are hemispherical, I want it to elongate a little bit. I need something else to punch it into. So I'm going to use one of these, a small punch, and we can see if we can elongate that end just a little bit. Make it more of a cone-ish sort of shape. If you're not careful, you'll punch right through it. You'll see it's getting more of a kind of a cone shape like that. I'm not going to be able to get it as sharp as the flower actually is, probably, but I'll stretch it out a little bit. So we should be able to mount that on the back of there. I'm going to drill a hole in it first, though. Okay, so I got a hole drilled in there. And I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to solder this onto the bottom like that. And so I think let's I might do a little soldering to make sure that these kind of stay in place the way they are. I have a little bit of solder here, so let's do that. I'm just going to pick a little bit in there, and then we'll maybe add some solder onto the edge here, and then we can just sweat it on. We'll just kind of play it by ear here. If you haven't seen pick soldering before, it's a really useful skill. You can just pick up a little bit, heat the piece up to the soldering temperature. Right there in front of me. Well, let's take a look at it and see where we're at. There's a little spot where there's a gap there, so I'm just trying to get that a little bit closer. These are a little pokey. I think when I get close to the end, I'm going to file them just a little bit so they're not quite so pokey. Maybe curl them around a little more so they're less likely to stab someone in the chest. But now I'm going to, now that I have this soldered pretty much all the way around, I'm going to take a ball burr and grind away that inside part so that it goes straight down there. Okay, that's pretty goobered up, so I'm going to let that clean up in the pickle for a while. But I got it more kind of shaped like the inside of a flower. We need to make that cone piece. Like this, that sticks up just a little bit. And then I need to make a stem for it that hooks onto the base back here that curls upwards like that. And so I think I'm just going to start by filing this to a point. I don't imagine it has to be perfect. It is supposed to be a flower, right? I'm going to try and hold it in my miter vise jig so I can file the end nice and flat. If you haven't seen these before, they're super handy sometimes. I'm just going to pick a little solder on the back side so it's already in place. Alright, got that in there I think. I'm going to let that pickle for a bit. And I need a piece of this that's it's got to curl back on itself and reach all the way down to here. So I'm going to cut a piece about, oh, I don't know, about that long. And I'm going to spend a while just filing it. So it's got a nice taper like this. And I'm not going to make you watch me do the entire thing, but I just want it to kind of naturally taper a little bit, so it's not just one with the entire stem. So I'll be right back. Okay, I got that kind of tapered, I think. Kind of curve it a little bit. So if I want this side to be up, see if that works. I feel like probably the little cone has got enough surface tension to hold it on there, since it's not really very light or not very heavy. One of the big issues, I think, is going to be getting this to stay straight this way, so I may have to add something to make it more of a little platform back here. I'm not sure. So I'm going to try and solder the bail closed there. I'm going to throw that in the pickle. Let's make a bezel for that. I'm going to make a step bezel, so I'm going to use some 18 gauge round to create a step on this. Let's start by So I'm actually filming this one on Thursday. I normally film it on Friday. And I'm doing that because I have to get ready for... my friend has asked me if I would help her out with Elk Fest up in Estes Park, Colorado this weekend. So I'll be up there if any of you are in the area and want to stop by and say hi. This will be released Saturday morning, so I will already be up there. I usually do two little rings, one on top of the other. This is not the only way to do a step bezel, it's just the way I generally do it. Sometimes I'll use some flattened square wire as well to create the step. Still just a little big. Looks pretty good. Just need one more now, probably. It's important that these sit pretty flat so that you have a nice flat platform for your stone to sit on. Looks good. That's going to be plenty high, I think. So we'll solder those in, and then we'll file that down to a shorter level, but somewhere in there we're going to solder it to that stem. Okay, to mount this on here, I'm going to use a little bit of medium paste solder. So let's just get some of that down in there. So that'll generally be okay, but I still think I maybe need something behind it to make it sit a little better. I could run some stems off of here that curl around on either side. That might be a good idea. Let me let this pickle for a while and I'll think about it. Okay, a couple of things I did. I did a lot of polishing in here with my rotary tool and some felt wheels with some white diamond and some ZAM. I added these stalks on the back coming off the stem just in order to give it a way to sit on someone's chest a little better. And then I got this bezel ready to go, so let's set the stone. I do this differently than a lot of people. I use my chain nose pliers, the side here, as kind of a bezel pusher. It's not the only way to do it. Everybody has their little things. This is a really rich colored garnet. I really like it. Once I've got that kind of pushed down so it's not moving anymore, then I'm going to use the rounded outer part as a burnishing tool. We'll just work our way all the way around that. I think it's pretty cool. I like it. And I think that garnet offsets the gives us a little sample of the color that it normally has. So, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your reactions. I'll finish up the top of this bezel with a little Dremel and a blue fine wheel, and that should smooth it out on the very top. And then I'll get some better pictures. So I'll probably do some pictures with this just to see how it contrasts. But all right, let me know what you think. I've only recently made flower sorts of shapes, and it's kind of fun to try and see if you can duplicate nature a little bit, or at least make a close approximation. So if you did enjoy the video, though, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button before you go, and I'd love it if you'd take a moment and check out my main channel page. I have 540-ish videos, I think, last I checked, and I do 3 per week, so there's 3 new ones every week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, one on Saturday. So there's a ton of content over there, and some of it's actually pretty good, so I think it might be worth your while to check it out. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. That helps me out immensely the more subscribers I have, and so I appreciate that. And don't forget to check out the video description down below. There's some useful links there. If you're interested in finding out more about my Patreon, whether just to get rid of the YouTube ads at the lowest tier, or whether you want to join one of the upper tiers where you get some exclusive content and live streams and things like that, I'd love it if you signed up. It's a great environment over there with some really cool people. There's also a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea sketchbooks. I find those super valuable and a great way to keep track of my projects for posterity, I guess. So get yourself 1 or 2 of those. They're really useful. And finally, there's a link to my ebooks, which are guides to my tutorials, and there's one for 2024 and one for 2023. Those are ebooks that contain a page for each of the tutorials I did during that particular year. It includes a picture of the sketch I drew, a picture of the final outcome, a list of materials you need to make it, a difficulty rating that's a little bit on the subjective side from my perspective, some notes I took about it, whether I liked the project, whether it was easy, hard, would I do it the same or differently if I was to repeat it, what did I feel was a failure on it, any of those kinds of things are included in that. And there's even a link right to the video so you can watch the tutorial again. So it's a nice way to have a ton of projects at your fingertips, as well as a nice way to support my channel. So thanks in advance for that, if you choose to do that. All right, well, thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.